Proxy Consulting. He is a business continuity management professional with over 12 years experience, delivering consultancy and training to entities and professionals in the Middle East and Africa. He's the president of DRI MEA, the official representative of DRI International in the Middle East and Africa, leading the ideas and initiative of setting up an Egyptian BCM standard with the Egyptian government. He's now a member of the Egyptian BCM Standard Development Committee. We heard from Daniel this morning about how the failure of an Icelandic bank threatened the continuity of a nation state. Surely one of the most challenging situations in his career was during the Arab Spring, which, as we watched events unfold on TV, he was actually there. So, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Waleed Hammad to talk to us about continuity management in the Egyptian Revolution.
Thank you. I know we just came back from lunch. We need to go home all this, and I've been advised to be keeping it as short as possible. I'm not going to really make a presentation as it should be. I'm going to take you all to a small journey, a small story that I want you to just imagine what happened, and let's keep it questions and answers afterwards. We all, or most of us, have done the business continuity plans either for our organizations or for others if we're working as consultants. How many of us put in the plan how to work in a curfew? Anyone? Perfect, really. Another question, how many of us contact their neighbors, their relatives through landlines? 2, 4, 6. So you have the contacts of your neighbors, your relatives. Well, what happened in Egypt was different. A lot of people gathered in one day, in one place, almost 2 million people, with no mobile phones. All the services were off. Internet was down for 5 days. How would business go on? How would people continue living, going to hospitals, buying from the market if the ATM machines are not available anymore? Visa cards are not accepted because there's no connection with the external world. It was tough. But the biggest question was, how did the revolution succeed in bringing the regime down? Well, guess what? It was business continuity management. The regime lacked the business continuity management concept. And that's why it all started on the day of the 25th of January. For 4 days, the policemen were standing out in the streets. And on the 28th or the 29th, the police disappeared. They all went back home. Why? There was no communication between the police departments and each other. They could not take command. And that's how it was. The batteries of the walkie-talkie went off. They could not charge it. Their power went off. 4 days continuously in the streets. So, the thing is, what we're trying to say today, gathering all that amount of, I don't want to say, see, it's not somebody that's going for protesting. Families were there together because they could not, you cannot leave your family at home and go to Tahrir Square or wherever you're going because you will not be able to make sure that they're safe. There's looters, there are thieves, and there's no police in the streets. Now that's the personal side. On the business side, all companies supporting international customers were offline. All contact centers, not all, let's say 98%, 97% were off. they were totally isolated from the external world for 5 days. Now, some companies managed to continue, and these were the international companies having the satellite connections. That's it. I'm just going to share a couple of examples of before and after the revolution. Before the revolution, me and a couple of business continuity management professionals went to the government asking them to start having a business continuity management standard for Egypt, to be the first in Africa, and to start developing something in Arabic. They said, well, let's see during 2011 or 2012. I said, all right. I went to the police department and said, guys, this is your data center. Let's think of a DR site, a business continuity management approach. Let's think of it. All right? 2011, we have a plan for that. And then January 2011, here comes the revolution. And sadly, I noticed that that police department data center was burned out during the revolution. And afterwards, they called us. Hey, what about the business continuity management standard now? What about having a program or an initiative again? Now there is a business continuity management standard in Egypt being developed by a committee. Now Egypt is starting, and actually it's not Egypt only, there's another standard being developed in the Emirates, the United Arab Emirates, underdeveloped as well. It's now spreading all over the Arab region, and it's now not, it's good to know that that revolution taught a lot of governments, a lot of entities within the Middle East and Africa, that business continuity management is not something that you put in your drawer as a manual. It's not something that would never happen to you. Now everybody in the region knows that it can happen to me, if not today, then maybe tonight. So I guess that was the small brief of how it was. If anybody wants to ask, comment, we'll be glad. Thank you.
Wow, pretty compelling story there, and also pretty compelling pictures rolling in the background. I think that's called business continuity in extremis, so thank you for sharing that with us, Waleed. Quick question for Simon on the end there, from SunGuard. Cloud availability, would that have helped the Egyptian police force?
Satellite, yes.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Tell us more.
So, yeah, no, obviously it's the connection to the cloud, and without the connection, you have no capability of cloud or any IT architecture. So, I mean, obviously, part of the continuity plans that hopefully Egypt and the government and the associated government services will look at that and adopt DR continuity both from a people but a technological aspect as well.
Absolutely, yeah. Thank you. Right, some questions from the audience. Gentleman at the front, please. Thank you.
I was under the impression that the internet was designed with the aim to tackle situations like this and survive even a war. So how can it be that the whole country is for 5 days without the internet?
Okay, thank you for the question. The answer was, it was a decision taken by the government. Sadly, the internet enters Egypt through a gateway managed by the government. So that was a decision they took. And actually that that raised the level of anger and rage within the people, losing their connections to the external world.
Any more questions? Gentlemen, right behind you.
I think one of the things that I'd like to know is what was the process in assessing the risk and how that fed into your country? Because obviously I think Tunisia were the first sort of country to start this up, and then it sort of mounted, became this tidal wave. And I'm just interested to see how you monitored this and what the agencies were doing in getting together to monitor this whole thing happening, and did they foresee it, or was it a complete surprise?
Well, actually, some of them did, and some were having between the lines information from the government people, telling them that, well, there is a risk of that the Tunisian story would be replicated in Egypt. Others did not really believe it, and who was thinking of copying that story to the Egyptian president really did that assessment, the risk assessment, and ended up having, but to be honest, the maximum that they expected is protesting 1, 2, 3 days. People would go home at night, and the main problem was that people did not go home at night. They spent the whole night and the other night and the other night, and they got tents and stayed in the streets until the regime got out. So the thing is, I know a couple of companies that they got the people staying, and that was in the plan, in their plan, in the BCP. They got beds, and they got mattresses on the floor, and they informed their employees that if you come on the 28th, if you come, make sure that your family knows that you may not go home in 3 to 4 days. But they were expecting just protesting, not a whole revolution.
Okay. Right, well, again, time has caught us up. Thank you, Waleed. We'll move on. So, next hot topic. When I was asked for words to describe our next hot topic speaker, I was expecting words like all-round good egg, expert, knowledgeable, affable, but nobody said any of those words, so I can't use them. I was, however, provided with egotistical, conceited and arrogant, and these were just a few words. But let's face it, if anyone knows our next speaker, it's Lucy Burns. Lyndon Bird, Technical Development Director of the Business Continuity Institute, FBCI, 25 years in business continuity.